Well, hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Movie News here at MBE.
Oh,
I am one of your co-hosts. I'm Stephen John
yes,
McLaughlin.
and
I am
that
joined,
shouldn't
as
that
always,
shouldn't be up either. That
with-
shouldn't be up. That shouldn't be up. That shouldn't be up. We have got numerous. I don't know what's going on here, Stephen. Fire away.
Yeah, no problem. I'm Stephen John McLaughlin and I'm joined with John C. Walsh. We'd like to thank you once again for joining us on our YouTube channel and our Twitch channel. And hello to Sandro as well in the chat. So we're going to kick off, John. It's not Bill and Ted we're talking about first. It's DaCosta
Jesus Christ, man.
to direct Captain Marvel 2. I'm just going to read a little quote here from Vulture.com.
There we go.
Deadline.
Wow.
This is actually coming in from Deadline, but it's Vulture who are commenting on it. So it's Deadline reported that Candyman director DaCosta is set to direct the highly anticipated Captain Marvel sequel, Captain Marvel 2. Great name for it.
Yep.
DaCosta will be the first black woman to direct a Marvel movie. DaCosta broke out onto the film scene with her critically acclaimed indie film Little Woods in 2017, which we reacted to, John, as you know,
We did
and which led to Jordan Peele handpicking her to direct the remake of Candyman, set to bow in October of 2020. Now, I did see that trailer. We didn't react to it.
No.
I think it came out at the start of the year, January, February time. Not a big fan of horror. I should actually have a t-shirt that says that because I say it all the time. But
I should have one that says I digress.
I did like the trailer. I liked the look of this film, and I will be watching this when it does come out. Hopefully it is October, John. She takes over the Captain Marvel franchise from Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who directed the first film, which grossed over $1 billion worldwide. The sequel will see the return of YouTuber Brie Larson. I don't know if that's what she's most famous for. I think she's an Academy Award winner.
Failed YouTuber.
Who starred as the titular Captain Marvel in the first film. So I know this is probably all over YouTube at the moment, John, but it is the big talking point at the moment.
It's the only talking point.
Yeah, and what's your take on this? What's your views, John?
Stephen, I think this is a great move on a number of levels. Anyone who gets the blessing, the thumbs up from Jordan Peele is good enough for me to direct any movie in any genre. The man knows what he's talking about. He's a truly fabulous director, writer. He's only done 2 movies that I am aware of today, Get Out and Us. But he's came from a sort of comedic background, if I'm not mistaken. I think he worked on Saturday Night Live. There's something that seems to be steeped in the horror genre. Something about comedy. It seems to blend over well when they transition over to directing. Yeah. I hope that I'm getting that right. He wasn't indeed a comedic sort of guy before delving into horror. But look, man, he's such a good director. And for him to recommend her for Candyman, and for her now to become sort of established enough that she gets this gig, I think it's great.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's great for representation in cinema. We don't see a lot of black female directors helming big blockbuster MCU movies. So it's a great move in that regard. And not just because of that, Stephen. I'm sure this is not down to a sex or a ethnicity or whatnot. I think this is just down to the fact, as Jordan Peele rightly says here, quite honestly, Nia is better to shoot this than I am. That was talking about Candyman. She has a steady manner about her, which you don't see a lot in the horror space. She's refined, elegant, and every shot is beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. I'm so glad I didn't mess it up. I love that, man. She's steady, she's elegant, every shot is beautiful. If you can transition that from an independent sort of movie, and I'm not saying Candyman is an independent movie, but it's way more independent and indie than an MCU, potentially ensemble movie, because there was talk that this could be a sort of mini Avengers movie with multiple characters. It could be setting up Miss Marvel and have a sort of Civil War vibe to it.
Yeah.
If you can transition those beautiful little elegant things, those little flourishes and flashes into a movie of this standing, and try to avoid some of the pitfalls that another indie director of fame and notoriety sort of did with Star Wars. If you can avoid those pitfalls, you will have a winner. Yeah. And look, that's another thing I'll say. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about Brie Larson, me included. She can come across as being a slightly abrasive person at times. She has a demeanour about her. It's not likeable at times. But one thing I will say about her is she is a champion for diversity and representation in film. She's absolutely consistent with that. Yeah. And I'm sure she went forward and says, look, I want her to direct this movie. I like her work. and it's great. It sort of emboldens people of colour from sort of minority communities, that they too can go on and be a filmmaker, that they too can have a successful career. They can end up directing big Marvel movies. So I think it's a great move for the movie. She's a great director. I think it's a great move for a representation side of things. And I think it's just a great move in general for Nia, because it's going to bolster her career. We've seen what it did for the Russos. We saw what it's done for other movie makers. Taika, some would say, success beforehand, but he's getting Star Wars gigs now, and he's getting to make movies like Jojo Rabbit, which never in a million years would he have got if he hadn't had something like Ragnarok in his back pocket. So it's good for her.
I watched Ragnarok the other night there, John. I forgot how good it is, how funny it is.
Good.
And my wife was wondering why there was so much comedy in it. It's because of the director, but we're not talking about Taika.
No, we are not.
A couple of comments, John, in regards to Captain Marvel 2. I'll read them out, you can answer them. It's from Sandro. It's Avengers Endgame helped Captain Marvel make $1 billion 100%. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, absolutely.
It was the film just before, wasn't it?
Because they positioned the movie a month or two before Endgame. They positioned the character into this, going to be the saviour of the day, sort of the one that will take down Thanos. They positioned her. And despite half the fan base hating Brie Larson, half of them were intrigued by the character. Me included, I was intrigued to see what this character was about. So, but if it wasn't for Endgame and them intelligently positioning the movie into that sort of early slot in 2019, what was 2019, wasn't
2019,
it? Yeah. Then it wouldn't have made the money it made. Not a chance, man. It would have been another, somewhere between an Ant-Man and maybe a little bit more profitable.
And finishes up with just saying, this time Avengers will not help Captain Marvel to laughing out loud.
Perhaps not. It may stumble.
I don't think any film would
and that's
be in that situation, John.
Is why we says they are making it deliberately a mini Avengers movie. So it's not just about Brie Larson. It's not just about Captain Marvel. If you've got a whole array of faces,
do you think?
Then it will help it.
Do you think Nia DaCosta will change the tone in Captain Marvel 2, John, or do you think she'll keep that consistent? We can't really base it on one film or a trailer as well, you know, in the sense of Candyman, which is an out-and-out horror film. But do you think she will take that approach? Do you think she'll go in with a different approach, a different tone, maybe a darker tone for the film? It's not worked in the past with the likes of Thor, so you've got to be very careful, haven't you?
I don't know how much say Nia is going to have, Stephen, on a movie of this ilk, with Kevin Feige being the sort of ultimate arbitrator for theme and tonality in these movies. I don't know she'll have much of a say. She's probably got a degree of openness to sort of do what she wants with, but ultimately she will have to follow a sort of template that Feige has put down for this movie, because it has to remain within sort of the laws of the comics, and it has to not overstep the mark, because they're setting up things with these movies we've already established. 11 years of movies setting up a whole saga. So she can't go too far. She can't do, as I said, a Ryan Johnson. She can't completely rip up the mythology and shite upon the legacy characters. There's got to be a degree of restrainment. But I don't know whether she can get down a darker route or not. I don't know what they have in mind. I love an ensemble movie. She did do the neo-western sort of thing, as you mentioned, Little Woods. It's going by a different name now. When we reacted to the trailer, it was definitely Little Woods. I think it was Tessa Thompson that was in that movie. So she's got that in a toolbox. She can do neo-westerns that's about these two sisters out, sort of living out with the boundaries of the law, trying to make better lives for themselves and whatnot.
There was also a vibe.
Candyman.
There was also a vibe, John, in Endgame with Captain Marvel as well. It just didn't sit right with me. I don't know what it was. I don't know. Well, that as well. But I mean, it's not down to bad writing or anything like that. There's just this vibe. You know, the sort of when they regrouped, and I think it might have been Natasha that says, "Where are you going?" I can't remember who it was. And she says, "I'm going to kill Thanos," or Thanos as she calls him. It's annoying that. Just that whole sequence, it just felt off to me. She had more of a relationship with Rocket, I think, in that film than anyone else. Everyone else just sort of kind of kept her at a distance. I don't. And that's probably because they don't know the character. I'm not putting Brie Larson into the equation here. The character. So I think, an ensemble film could do the character a lot of good as well.
Could do damage as well, though, Stephen, because they have to forward this character's arc. She's just been introduced. She's been thrust into a big ensemble finale of the Infinity Saga. They have to continue the character's story on in a meaningful way. They have to develop her out. if they're going to create bonds with the fan base, in spite of Brie Larson, they have to get the story just right. And if you balance that with an ensemble, it could damage it. If you've got so many other faces coming in, it may be hard to lay down the character's own story arc. So you have to get the balance right. And I think DaCosta is the perfect choice. She will come in, she'll blend it with maybe ensemble, mini Avengers vibes, and then give the character its own sort of personal edge. I think she's the perfect choice.
And changing directors isn't something that they've not done before, John. They've done it with the Captain America trilogy. They did it with
the Iron Man.
With Iron Man and Thor. It worked a treat for all of them, just having the different styles and different tones in there. Sometimes it's not what people want, and other times it is. But we'll move on, John, to...
You already know what we're speaking about next, guys, incidentally, because I flashed every graphic up at the start of the show.
And you can also read the description down below the screen as well. John Wick team reuniting for Man from Nowhere movie remake. John Wick team Chad Stahelski and Derek Kolstad reunite for a remake of the South Korean action thriller The Man from Nowhere. This coming in from Screen Rant, John, and I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs here just to sort of fill out the story here, what it's about, where this actual film came from, obviously South Korea, and when it was out.
And I'll flash a graphic up. So we're fellow non-Scottish members of the stream who are perhaps watching.
Subtitle, they
can read along and perhaps learn how we speak as they go.
Yeah, because don't rely on YouTube's.
No, they'll have us saying words we're not saying.
Words that don't exist.
Yes,
but
gobbledygook.
Chad Stahelski and Derek Kolstad, the respective directors and writers of the massively successful John Wick series, are reuniting for an American version of The Man from Nowhere, the remake of Lee Jong-bom's 2010 South Korean action thriller, not to be confused with the 2016 Indian remake starring John Abram, will come from New Line, produced by Stahelski and his partner Jason Spitz through their production banner 8711 Entertainment. The original Man from Nowhere follows a pawn shop owner with a military past named Cha Tae-sik as he extracts brutal and well-directed punishment on a drug ring that kidnaps a little girl whom he considers his only friend. It starred the now seemingly retired Won Bin and was the highest grossing film in Korea that year.
Big
at
shoes to
about
fill.
$43 million. Interestingly enough, an English language remake was written for Dimension Films back in 2012, but the project fell through and the rights reverted back to CG Entertainment before being bought again by New Line in 2016. The project is directly in the wheelhouse of this team, as one could say they specialise in violent revenge stories about quiet loners. Now,
absolutely,
it does say here, John, and I did say this, Chad Stahelski is on as a producer, and I think Derek Kolstad is a writer, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they've got a director in place yet, but
David Leitch, sorry. David Leitch.
Yeah. So
get him in.
Yeah, I think he's mentioned somewhere in this article actually.
I hope he comes in.
But how do you fancy this, John?
Stephen, I think it sounds like a match made in heaven again.
Yeah.
Chad Stahelski, Derek Kolstad, if they can get David Leitch in to direct it, a revenge flick with potential sort of, I don't know if there is martial artist sort of vibes going on here, but if they fling that in as well, and it's little girl's been picked up and it's the only friend, that's a strange concept.
Yeah.
Though I have to say, that one about I'm kidnapping a little girl and her being his only friend, that's a little bit Kevin Bacon, isn't it?
Doc Brown Marty, yeah.
Yeah. It's for innocent times when people didn't have their minds in the trash, the gutter. But it sounds great. It sounds like an interesting story. It's also, I've not seen the original Korean one, but Korean movies are just, they have a slickness to them. They have a slightly different way of making movies. I've not watched a bad one yet.
No.
And if they can perhaps channel some of this into the sort of English language version, then maybe it will do very, very well, man. They're certainly getting the right guys involved, because these dudes, as they do say at the bottom of the article, they know how to do this genre. They know how to do revenge flicks with sort of disenfranchised figures leading it. Could be an absolute success, it could be an absolute flop, Stephen. I want to see Leitch in though, because that guy knows how to direct a movie like this. I do believe he's already doing some flick for Sony though, which is going to start randomly. I think Brad Pitt maybe in it. Some train flick where he has to take on multiple villains or something like that. Sounds like the Warriors meets a train. The Warriors meets Snowpiercer. That's what it sounds like. I'll search that up in a moment. I think Brad Pitt's in it.
Sandro has put a comment into. He says, "To be honest, I only seen John Wick 2. That's probably I'll say the worst one. It's not a bad film, but it's probably the weakest of the three. John, what's your opinion on that?"
Yeah, first one's great. Absolutely fantastic. Bare bones sort of revenge flick. What's his name? Is Alfie Moon? What the hell is it? Not Moon, is it? Alfie Moon. What's he called? Alfie Allen, not Moon. Alfie Moon's in EastEnders. He was the old bartender. Yes, Alfie Moon. Alfie Allen was the villain. He was a little shithead Russian sort of guy. He kills his dog. He goes off and tries to take him down, and it just takes him on a beautiful journey. It's slick as hell, man. The action sequences, the choreography and whatnot. That was Chad Stahelski, what he can accomplish in a movie perfectly. I think the first one's the best. I really, really enjoyed the third one. It was a sort of combination of the first and the second. Second one was okay. It established the sort of criminal underground, what's going on, the mythology. I think it's the Winston character. I always forget that goddamn actor's name. Shane McRitch.
Ian McShane.
Ian McShane. He is a great actor in it. It established all that out. But for me, first one's the best. Third one's second best. Second one's third best.
So they seem to have the right team on board. And you're right, John. If they can maybe get Leach involved in this, then it will be.
Bullet Train's that movie, by the way.
Made in heaven. Bullet Train, yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to move on anyway, John, because it's obviously just talk just now. We'll just have to keep our eyes on this and see what's happening here. But I'm going to just move on to our next topic here. Sandro's actually ahead of us. He's talking about Nurse Ratched.
Because we flashed the graphics up.
So, John, we're going to do a trailer reaction for this. Once we're done doing the live thing, because we're not allowed to do live trailer reactions. You get a strike for that, apparently. But this is coming in from Empire. It's Ratched trailer. Ratched. I can't remember how to say her name.
I say Ratched.
Sarah Paulson explores the Cuckoo's Nest nurse's early days. There are some characters where you never want to know how they become who they are when we meet them on film, but with a twisted type like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest Nurse Ratched, there's some prime territory to explore, at least according to Ryan Murphy, who has Sarah Paulson playing the younger version of the role in which Louise Fletcher won an Oscar for the 1975 film. See the trailer first.
Look at that cover as well, Stephen.
I'm not going to do that, but it's an amazing poster, John.
Really, really good poster.
It's an 8-episode series set in 1947 and finds Mildred Ratched arriving in North Carolina to seek employment at a leading psychiatric hospital where new and unsettling experiments have begun on the human mind. On a clandestine mission, Mildred presents herself as the perfect image of what a dedicated nurse should be, but the wheels are always turning, and as she begins to infiltrate the mental health care system and those within it, Mildred's stylish exterior belies a growing darkness that has long been smouldering within, revealing that true monsters are made, not born. Now, we'll do the trailer reaction, so we're kind of getting this blindly, John, so we'll base this on actually our experiences of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Just the casting as well, Stephen. Sarah Paulson, that's a great casting choice.
I remember watching one of those Channel 4 programmes, you know, the one they used to do on a Saturday, the top 100 greatest villains of all time.
Yeah.
She was in the top 5, and there is a good reason for it if you've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
The funny thing about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for me, it's one of the greatest films ever made, and I've only seen it maybe about 5 times in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because I don't really have to go back to it that much, because it leaves such an imprint on you, and it stays with you for a long time. It's such an emotional film. It's a well-written film. It's well shot, great cast, and it's probably one of Jack Nicholson's best performances. And the same with Louise, what's her name again? I can't remember. Louise Fletcher, who won. I didn't know she won the Oscar for the 1975 film. But
it was a great performance.
She was terrifying in this film. This was the first time as well. Maybe 7 or 8 I was when I saw this for the first time, John. Probably shouldn't have been watching it. This was the first time I actually learned about suicide. Billy Bibbit, I think the character's name, played by your man from Lord of the Rings. I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the actor's name, but he's an amazing actor. But
it still blows my mind that's him, Stephen.
Yeah, just the sort of evil nature of her. She knew what she was doing, manipulating him mentally, and there was, not just him, but everyone that was in that hospital in the film. Such a chilling character, very cold. But we're going back to the 40s, which would be about right, because this film was set in the 1970s.
Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif, yeah, great actor. I remember him in the X-Files as well. I think he was only in one episode, and I still remember it. That's how good he is.
Yeah.
Over 200 episodes. But it's interesting that they're going back to do a kind of prequel thing. It's going to be 8 episodes, and Netflix as well has picked this up. So is it something that you'd be interested in, or is it one of these things? We talked about this last week with a few characters. Sometimes things are better remain a mystery. Do you think we really need the sort of backstory of this? I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's something we don't really need, but at the same time, curiosity. I would like to know how she became who she became in that film.
Yeah, Stephen, look, you're always straddling the line between giving away too much and perhaps giving us an interesting insight into how this monster was created. Because she's a complete monster of a character. The way she knowingly sort of lobotomizes, or is a steady hand in influencing the lobotomizing of the Jack Nicholson character, that in itself is bad and evil. Because she knows that the man is not clinically insane, that he doesn't belong there. He's a bit of a con man who's in there to avoid jail time. Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
And she sees he's a sort of positive influence on all of the other inmates, that he's giving them a bit of the outside world and bringing it in, and he's sort of enlightening them and making their lives brighter as a result. So she wants to take him out because she hates happiness. She just hates, I don't know, people being happy, in a sense. There's no other word for it. She's an evil shit. That was bad enough, but as you did see, what she did to that young boy sort of informed his mother, I think it was, that he was sort of in a relationship, and then he ends up
fooling around,
knowing that he was going to kill himself. That was sort of the ultimate evil that he
begged.
Yeah, he begged.
That was the worst
and
part.
She still did it.
Yeah.
And it will be interesting to see how this character was shaped. Was she a complete psychopath from the very get-go? Or was it slowly, like a sort of drip-feeding process where numerous things in her life sort of shaped her into this hideous creature that we see in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? I think it's the correct decision to make it a mini-series. I think they say it's an 8-episode mini-series, isn't it?
Yeah.
A movie, it wouldn't have been right making a movie. It would have had too much pressure on it. It's a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Look what happened with Dr. Sleep. The pressure that was put on that and Mike Flanagan, because it was a direct sort of sequel to The Shining. There was unbelievable pressure. I thought he actually succeeded with that movie. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. He did enough to pay homage to Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick in equal measures. He made it his own unique movie. It was great performances brought out. The little girl who was in it was brilliant. Ewan McGregor was really good as well. So he got it right. But I think Netflix tried to tackle a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with the Nurse Ratched character in a movie form, 2-hour movie. It would have flopped hard. Giving it more time to sort of drip feed and slowly manifest over 8 episodes, perhaps 45-minute episodes. That's the way to tell a story like this. It can get you enthralled, and if it's good enough and that they've set it far enough back in the character's life, it could be sort of greenlit for a second series as well, because we know Netflix like to get their money's worth out of TV shows like this. But again, the casting choice is great for me. She is perfect to play it. She looks like her. She's such an accomplished actor. I don't know what's going on round about it. I don't know who's actually wrote it, who's directed, if it's episodic sort of directors who've come in like The Mandalorian. But it's promising, man. I just hope they don't give too much away. And then I hope they get the right balance.
Yeah.
We learn enough about the character, but it doesn't ruin the sort of mystique about her, because part of what you enjoy with these hideous characters is the mystique. That's why a lot of people hated the prequels with Star Wars, because there was a sort of mystery around Darth Vader, how he became what he did, how the Emperor got those deformations in his face. And when you start giving that away, it sort of ruins that mystery, and it's lost forever. It's always there in the back of your mind. And I love this movie. It's one of my all-time favourite movies. So nuanced, so balanced, so many great performances, great story. Nicholson's absolutely sublime in it. For me, still his best performance ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's done so many great movies. But this for me is his best performance ever. It's such a touching movie, but it's so funny as well.
Yeah, I will have you in tears at the end.
Yeah.
But Sandro's just mentioned actually some miniseries here that was awful. The Shining being one of them, a miniseries, and Carrie the miniseries as well. The thing about those two is
a Shining miniseries?
they were actually these were actually made after I think maybe the films were released, so it's not going to really. You're kind of fighting against it from the kick-off. This is different. This is obviously a prequel. But I can understand, he does say he's more interested in the life of Margaret White from Carrie, which that's quite interesting, actually.
Yeah.
But one
Does
thing
that not say something, Steve? Sorry for interrupting you. That all of these classic movies from the 70s, such as the diversity in the cast and the great characters, the quality of the writing, that you want to see more about them. You can actually flesh out whole mini-series based on characters, singular characters from these movies. You don't really get that these days.
No.
We've seen it with, who was it directed it again? I'm completely blanking on his name, but 1917. Some great sort of side characters in that. And Sam Mendes. Yeah. And you could really go off and do a whole mini-series based on these individual characters popping into the story. Yeah. It's a rare thing in modern day movies.
Exactly. And I think you're right as well, John, about the way that the format. I think it works better as a mini-series because the drama and the dramatic levels, you'll have to keep the suspense. If that's the road they're going down, I would assume they are. You couldn't maintain that for a whole 2-hour film or whatever. It's better to keep those energy levels up and that tone up in episodic format. That's the way I see it anyway, and I think that works well. But we're going to move on, John, to a couple of things that are back up and running. 2 films, actually. First and foremost, Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds' Red Notice resumes filming next month. The new Netflix action comedy Red Notice, which stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, they still call him that, and Ryan Reynolds
will forever be The Rock.
Will now resume filming,
especially to me,
next month. The Netflix action comedy Red Notice, starring Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, is scheduled to resume filming next month. Red Notice, which follows an Interpol agent and master tracker as he hunts the world's greatest art thief, Gal Gadot, with the help of the world's most notorious conman, Reynolds, began filming in January of this year. However, like countless other productions, film shooting shut down due to the coronavirus pandemic in March. I'll breathe. Reynolds kept the interest going post shutdown by releasing new sets of photos of him and Johnson on Johnson's birthday. But as many other Hollywood productions are heading back to the sets, Red Notice is now planning on doing the same. Now, I didn't know Gal Gadot was in this, so this is going to be very interesting because it is a action comedy. She was in Fast and Furious. Yes. I don't know what the tone of the film she was in, if it had action comedy or not, John.
Oh, Stephen, there's always comedy in the Fast and Furious movies. Even if it's unintentional comedy, there's always comedy.
So that's very interesting that she's going to be the world's greatest art thief. And we're going to get Ryan Reynolds as a notorious con man. He's the world's most notorious con man.
Sounds a perfect match.
I think it does, and it's also funny, that Reynolds kept the interest of this production going, releasing photos of himself. He's so active on social media whenever he's got a film coming out or he's in the middle of.
Did you see the Deadpool 3 thing?
No, I never seen it.
Something about leaking or something, and then he actually put Deadpool 3 into, what was it again? Was it the X-Men? I think it was the X-Men or something. He's great. His social media stuff is absolutely incredible, man.
Yeah,
just bouncing off him and his wife.
Dwayne Johnson, he teased that Ryan Reynolds was going to be appearing in the Black Adam film or something like that. But I think it was a bit of a wind up. I can't. The two of them get very.
That was it.
It might have been that then. Yeah. I think both of them get very similar, comedic vibes. But Red Notice, John, I didn't actually, pardon the pun, notice this film, any talk of this film, when it was
had heard of it.
Starting production back in January. But it's good to see, and the fact it's going to be on Netflix, we're both subscribers to the streaming outlet, so we get it anyway, so that's a bonus. Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, big fans of him. Gal Gadot, yes, of course. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And obviously, they've not got a release date for it yet because... just like anything, they can't really nail it down at the moment. But I would imagine it's sometime in 2021 before we see this.
Netflix will fling a trailer out about a week before it comes out, and then it'll be out. Because that's what they tend to do with all of the movies. Was it 7 Underground or something? And Extraction. Didn't even know the movies really existed. I'd heard about them briefly. Then they came on the service, and that was it. Huge hits. Apart, but everything's a huge hit on Netflix. Everything that they like to tell you about. This is going to be a huge hit, though, if they get this right, man. I can't recall who's directing it, but Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne Johnson, that's a trio. Sort of action hero, comedic trio it's got the potential to work magic.
Yeah.
They're saying it's almost going to be like a quarantine bubble, like what the NBA have in Orlando. They're going to come in, get this movie shot. I presume it'll be quite intensive then, and they will get the production done quickly. And then it's just a case of how much CGI and stuff like that's going to be in it, how much budget they've got, and how long the post-production will be until it comes out. So it could potentially come out early next year if they get the skates on, essentially. We've not got that long to next year, but there's long enough that they could shoot the rest of this movie and get the post done. Red Note, I did hear about it, Stephen. I heard about it purely because Dwayne Johnson's in it, and I love Dwayne. I've grown up watching WWF back in the day. He was my absolute hero.
Dwayne.
Yeah, Dwayne. He's just an absolute hero, really, isn't he? He's just a great role model. The guy gets up at 4:30 in the morning, he runs, he does weights, eats very well. He's a very kind and generous guy. I mean, and then he lost his father tragically, and he had to delay starting shooting this movie earlier on this year. So that's how I knew about the movie.
It's funny, John, because I think it's clear to see who his inspiration is. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think he's does a great impression of him as well, apparently. Probably the same form of exercise, his strict diets, etc., that maybe it's rubbed off on him and stuff like that. Obviously his dad was a big inspiration to him as well.
His whole family, I mean, they were all wrestlers.
From an acting point of view, Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't start out in comedic films or anything like that. He was an action star.
Oh, Stephen, did you see that Hercules movie?
Unintentionally again.
It's Hercules.
Yeah.
I'm going for a swim. How dare you touch Hercules?
And Arnold.
It's Arnold, man.
I'm saying Arnold as if I know him. Arnold, Arnold
Arnie.
and I. He took this chance. He always had those funny little one-liners in his action films anyway, but he took this chance of doing, I don't know if it was maybe Twins or whatever, can't remember, but his first sort of comedic sort of film, and he did a few more after that, but he always went back to the action films, and he'll always be remembered as an action hero. Dwayne Johnson,
Cop.
Yeah, Kindergarten Cop as well.
It's not a tumor.
Yeah, on the other hand, Dwayne Johnson seems to do more comedy, I think, with action in it, but it's always like Hobbs and Shaw was a very funny film.
Yeah.
It had a lot of action in it, but I'll remember that as a very, very funny film with Jason Statham bouncing off each other. Idris Elba in there as well, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was in the Idris, and he's got the knack for being a very funny man, and he's a good guy as well off screen from what I've seen anyway. I know that you've followed him a lot longer than me, John.
Yeah.
But it just seems to have this natural comedic charm to him, it just the timing's there all the time,
That's because he honed that skill in wrestling, Stephen. It's a live performance in front of thousands of people. You're essentially working off a script.
Yeah.
But back then they had a degree of freedom to go off and ad lib lines, and he was the master on the mic speaking.
He's had the training,
so he honed that over, I don't know how long. He's still technically a wrestler. He goes back every now and then, but at least a 15-year career or whatever from the 90s through. So he had that in his locker, and then he transitioned over to movies. It was a sort of sticky start. He was even later on, 10 years into his career, he was doing the Tooth Fairy and whatnot. But he's transitioned into and developed into a really good action hero. He's like the modern day Schwarzenegger.
But I was going to say though, but would you put him in the same sort of, pigeonhole as Arnold Schwarzenegger? Because he's not really done a Terminator or a Total Recall or anything like that. Every action film he's been involved in,
it's not
it's
been
always
a series.
had exactly.
There's always been a degree of unrealistic elements to it. Like even Skyscraper and what was the other one, San Andreas. It was ridiculous, over the top nonsense. But you go to watch Dwayne. That's why you do it.
Yeah,
you can handle it. You can sort of suspend your disbelief. Yeah, I don't know if I'd put him at the same level as Arnie. He's the modern day equivalent of Arnie, but Arnie was just different, man. Him and Stallone, what they were doing in the 80s through to the 90s.
But I think that's the genre as a whole, not just the actors. You had the diehards, etc.
Yeah.
They don't seem to make those type of films anymore, do they?
Sadly not. No. But he's the closest equivalent in modern day terms, and he's complete box office gold as well, Stephen. So for Netflix to get this guy over, you're going to have people subscribing just to watch this guy. And I just hope they can find a way to fit Kevin Hart into this movie as well, because him and Dwayne are just absolute gold together. That sort of comedic dynamic duo. Those two are magic. They fit Kevin Hart into Hobbs and Shaw as well. Of course, I think he played the little agent or something on the plane.
Yeah.
And he was having little back and forth jokes with him. So if they can get him into this movie as well, that'd be a great little addition.
Sandro says...
I'm being a little bit condescending there. Little addition. I know Kevin's only 5'4", but he's bigger than me, man. He's an absolute unit. He's an absolute unit of a man.
Sandro says... Red Notice on Netflix, it won't flop. And I don't know if you're being sarcastic there or not. Netflix...
It won't flop because they'll never tell you.
Exactly, yeah. So, I can see from different sides here. But it also says, Arnold, make King Conan. Why not? Why not? He might as well.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Steve, man, I really do want to say some more Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liners, but I have to draw myself away from it.
Get to the chopper, yeah.
Yeah, things like that, man.
We'll move on anyway.
Let's play a game of Who's Your Daddy and Who Does He Work For? I can't do the accent. I don't have the deep voice of Arnold, but I love Arnie, man.
Get your Aston Mars, right? Okay.
See you at the
Bill
and
Ted Face the Music as a new release date again. But it's good news. We're ending on good news for a change. You're not like that Toy Story... Toys Can Die story we did the other day, John. Since March, every time we've heard about a movie shifting its release date, it's been bad news that a movie that we thought was coming sooner would now be coming out later. This is coming in from Cinema Blend, by the way. Yes. The one exception has been when movies have made the decision to skip the theatre entirety and go straight to the VOD platforms. Bill and Ted's Face the Music is actually planning to do both, opening theatres where possible while also being available via VOD platforms. And now, in whichever way you're able to see it, you'll be able to see it sooner, as the release date was just moved up from September 1st to August 28th. So a little bit of good news there, John.
Yes.
For everyone who is looking forward to seeing the third instalment in this franchise. It's moving 3 days forward. Wow.
Stephen, they're saying that's highly important though, because that could signify that this movie is being prioritised for a theatrical run. As an aside, I get caught in a sort of eternal loop that was almost Doctor Strange and what was it, Dormamagog or whatever his name was. That was nearly an eternal cycle of as opposed to a sort of VOD only release. This movie was always going to be a dual release anyway, but apparently the original date was a Tuesday, and that's the traditional day for VOD releases. So there may be some significance in this movie releasing. I think they says on a Friday it's going to release, and that it may be prioritised for a short little stint at the theatres, and also depending on how popular it is and if people are excited enough and brave enough to go out and watch it, it may earn some swindulix, depending on the nostalgia sort of vibe and maybe people being out and out fans of it. I personally won't be going to see it in the theatres because I've not seen any of the other Bill and Ted movies. That's why I was over the moon when they sort of done this concurrent VOD cinematic release, because it gives me the opportunity to go and watch the other movies, and then I don't really have to go out and risk my life in the theatres to watch Bill and Ted Face the Music. I would do it for Tenet and June and whatnot, but less inclined to do it for Bill and Ted 3, is it?
3, yeah.
3. But it's great news, man, for fans that it's coming out earlier, that they'll get a chance to jump into the theatres and see it. How many people are going to go and watch it in the theatres though when they know it's coming out in VOD 3 days later? And depending on if it's competitive, the pricing, then people may just wait and then go and watch it in VOD. It's like Mulan, Stephen. I'd love to get your take on Mulan, incidentally. I spoke about it yesterday. Lots of people complaining about the $29 price tag to keep the movie forever, as long as you're a subscriber to Disney Plus. I personally don't have an issue with it, because I'd normally go with multiple people, and it's actually saving you money paying the $30. I want to see Mulan. I love the bravery of these big studios just foregoing traditional theatrical releases. Studios that are losing $5 billion and taking a risk and putting it out in VOD.
Well, that's it, John. Someone's got to take the risk, and someone's got to stamp their feet and say this is the way we're doing it, whether you like it or not. I don't know how it's been received, John, but I can only give you my personal opinion. I don't mind it at all. It's not the first time this kind of thing's been done. Sky Television, here in the UK, did it with soccer for a long time, where you were paying something like £40 a month or whatever for the minimum package, which would include the Sky Sports channels 1, 2 and 3 at the time. They also then introduced for subscribers, paying subscribers, a Premiership channel that you had to pay an extra £10 for per season. So it's like charging your subscribers twice. I get that. But not everyone's a football fan or a soccer fan. No, I mean
paid yearly,
for what you're
it's
getting,
like £40 I paid for a year. It's so cheap, you know what I mean?
And you're going to keep the film as well. It's not a one-off. So
it's a big release that was never intended for VOD. Well, you've got to sort of back that
John,
bravery. I feel
just while we're talking about that, because you've actually brought that up, and I know you can't see the comments.
I can't. No.
So this is actually no coincidence, or it is a coincidence. Who will make more money, Bill and Ted Face the Music or Mulan?
Oh, that's a tough one. If the social media reaction of Mulan's anything to go by, then Mulan's going to flop and hard on this sort of VOD experiment for Disney, because people are complaining about the price of the movie. That they think it's going to come out 6 months later or something and be a part of the streaming service. I don't think that's going to happen. This will be treated like a traditional theatrical release. It'll go out on VOD for rental for maybe 3 months. Then it'll be hawked around all of the other services. Then it'll finally come back to Disney Plus maybe 2 years from now or something like that, a year and a half. People ain't going to get to see this movie within 6 months on Disney Plus for the flat rate subscription fee.
No.
They're going to be disappointed, and they will have to pay for it if they want to see it one way or the other. I don't know, man. I don't know what one will make more money. Bill and Ted's got a big fan base, I believe, over 30 years, so it might just pip it if the social media reaction is anything to go by. But as we do know, Stephen, Twitter, social media, bit of an echo chamber. The loud voices are heard. The minority are loud and they're heard more than the sort of silent majority. So
they tweet more.
You'd think Disney would make more money, and Mulan would make more money than Bill and Ted. It looks like a better movie. Let's be honest, it does. I personally think it looks better. I think it looks magnificent. But hey ho, horses for courses and all that jazz. Yeah. I'm done, Stephen. I'm done speaking. So that's going to round up a show. Everybody that's watching, all 3 of you.
For now.
Yes, for now. What was your thoughts on that headline that we spoke about? What do you make about Captain Marvel getting Nia DaCosta in to direct? Do you think it's a great move? Do you think it's perfect? Do you think it has symbolic sort of symbolism, for lack of a better word, for the tone of this movie and where they're going with the story? What is your thoughts on, what is it, John Wick, Chad Stahelski, the Dream Team coming back to remake a classic Korean movie, Man from Nowhere? What do you make about the Ratched, Nurse Ratched miniseries on Netflix? You think that's a good idea? What do you make about the 2 movies we spoke about? One getting into production, Red Notice, and finally Bill and Ted getting released a big 3 days earlier than originally scheduled. If you've got anything to say about any of the topics we've touched upon on today's show, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed listening to us prattling away, me getting caught in an eternal loop. And if you want to see more of that, you can subscribe to the channel and you'll get it. Yeah, you'll see us back here tomorrow, incidentally, for our movie review, retro review, some would say, of Arlington Road. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.